Well, hi there. Warm welcome. You're watching Blueprint Exclusive with me, Meghna Dekha. Well, today on the show, we are joined by Noah Abrahams. He is a former, and I'm calling him former BBC freelance journalist because he's quit his job in the name of principles, in the name of morality, and in a stand against Hamas and the horror that they have unleashed in Israel. We'll speak to him as to what really forced him to take this step, which is going to have long and far-reaching impact on his career, but why he decided that this war is not just about the artillery or the firepower, but also about morality. We'll come and discuss all of that with Noah in just a bit. But before that, it's important for us to understand what really is happening on the ground, why it is becoming important for people like Noah to take a principled stand against Hamas, fight for a noble cause. For the people of Palestine, there are those who have sympathized, but look at the strategy which has been deployed. In fact, taking hostages to be used as human shields, not sparing even babies. Now, there are distraught families who have been looking for their missing kin. There are distraught families who have been forced to see Facebook lives of their families being butchered. That is the kind of untold brutality which has been unleashed by the Hamas. Watch these reports. We'll come back and speak to Noah.
أي واحد زلمة بدنا نشوف إيش بدنا نسوي فيه. هينا في الأراضي.
Watching that video of Moran on her knees, caught in the bushes with Arabic speaking militants.
مسكنا واحدة وهنسيبوها. أي واحد زلمة بدنا نشوف إيش بدنا نسوي فيه. هينا في الأراضي.
For me, it was terrifying, but imagine her mother watching it. It's a sight that no one should ever see. Moran could be your daughter, could be your sister, could be anyone.
My sister with her husband and 3-year-old daughter came to visit her parents-in-law and meet her also sister-in-law for Shabbat dinner. They've been captured from their house, from the shelter of their house in Saturday morning, and along with her husband and their baby, they've been taken inside a car towards Gaza they've been kidnapped, and they managed to run out of the car, trying to save their lives, their daughter's lives. For the last 5 days, we were just extensively searching for her, looking for any tracks, any signs that we can see if she's still here in Israel or been recaptured.
My sister, according to my father, was taking sorry. She was taken by terrorists, and we don't have any clue about her. We're looking for her, and we hope that she's safe somewhere. My mother is, we don't have connection with her. There is videos that we have seen of her walking with a terrorist, taken live.
The situation they live in right now, if they are living, who knows what's happening inside of the street now for the hostages, the Israeli hostages. I owe them, really.
Well, those are some of the testimonies coming in from Israel, but remember, they're just some of the lakhs and lakhs more such distraught, disturbing stories which have been coming in. Noah Abrahams, he's live with us, and as I was telling you earlier, he worked as a freelance commentator with the BBC Radio Derby. In fact, he said his decision to not describe, BBC's decision not to describe Hamas's actions as terrorism, he said that was unjustified. In fact, remember, BBC all along has been saying this is all about impartiality. So let me go across to Noah. Noah, why do you think the etymology of it all is so very important? Why is it so important to call Hamas as terrorists and not militants?
Because words mean everything. Terminology is everything. the English language, the foundations of that language, terminology and words. And when we start calling them militants and when we start calling them freedom fighters, we're not adequately addressing them as what they are. They are terrorists. And the BBC seem to be the only organisation, the only corporation that cannot see past that. The British government are calling them terrorists, as are our monarchy, as are Western governments and most of the Western world. It is a disgrace.
In fact, that's very interesting because you're saying that at a time when your monarchy has come out very categorically calling it an act of terror. Your Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has spoken about it. Why is the BBC steadfast with it? What really happened when you spoke to them about it?
They will tell you that they have their rules on impartiality. One could argue that by not using the word terrorists, they are violating their own impartiality. I can tell you that 7 former culture secretaries in this country say that the BBC's refusal to call Hamas terrorists, which is what they are, is risking blurring BBC impartiality. They are very steadfast in the way they go about their management, and this isn't a visceral issue. This is as serious as it gets, and they are so set in their ways that they can't see beyond that. They can't adequately adapt to change. And Tim Davie, who is the Director General of the BBC, he may be watching this, is ignoring the government's advice. He is ignoring the Jewish community.
Noah, whom in BBC did you speak to? How did it all come to such a position where you felt that there was no other alternative for you? You had to choose between your job and your morality.
Well, I will always choose my morality and I will always stick by my morals. And the decision was made solely alone. I realised very quickly that I am far better off voicing my opinions outside of the BBC than within. If I had voiced my opinions within, we wouldn't be where we are now. We wouldn't be trying to force change in the manner that we are. So the decision was completely down to me. It was a solo decision and one that I made with my career in mind, but I had to put my morals first. And I believe on behalf of most or all of the Jewish community that what the BBC are doing and the way they are broadcasting and printing is incorrect.
Was there, Noah, any official whip coming in from the top brass of the BBC? How were journalists told? How were radio jockeys told? How was the entire establishment under the BBC informed that they are not going to be using the word terrorists for Hamas, despite the visuals that we can see on our screens? How was that communication giving across at all levels for their organization?
Well, there is a BBC policy, and those at the top will set that policy, and everyone else follows. And whether questions are asked or not, those policies will be followed. There is also the point that by refusing to call Hamas, who are a terrorist organization, who the government say are a terrorist organization, by refusing to call them terrorists, I think we then run the risk of distinction, and there being no distinction between those who are innocent and living around Hamas to those who are the murderers. And I can tell you from my point of view, when your local high streets are being destroyed, when anti-Semitism is rising as high as it is in London, it is so important to get terminology correct, because when words are not used correctly and when they are neglected, it puts more fuel on the fire.
That's very disturbing. You are saying words can fuel fire. It's important for us to understand why you would say that, because there has been a disturbing trend of anti-Semitism, which has been echoed in several other people as well of the Jewish community across the entire world. How do we use words now to unite, to so expose the kind of humanity and to get people to accept it? Because there are many back home in India as well, who are saying that Hamas and even the Hezbollah to some extent, they are fighting for their rights, they are fighting for their land.
Well, I think when you begin to call them freedom fighters, I think you set some very dangerous connotations, because freedom fighter in its essence sets sends the wrong message. Words are the most important thing in the English language. Without words, there is no language. Without words, we have no debate. We can't act or react or influence. You ask why words are so important. You and I are having this conversation because of them. Words are absolutely everything. And when terminology is incorrect, or when it doesn't accurately represent what is going on, it can lead to influential people being influenced. The BBC are probably or arguably the most influential broadcaster on the planet. They have a responsibility, and their responsibility is to broadcast accurately. If they were broadcasting accurately, they would be broadcasting the facts. And the facts are that Hamas are a terrorist organization. It is completely unjustified not to call them that.
And we can see their acts of barbarism, their acts of inhumanity on our screens even as we speak to you, despite the protests which are happening, some of them in support of the Hamas. But Noah, this would have been, of course, a monumental career shift for you, a monumental career life decision for you. Did you have any apprehensions, or for you it was just a split-second decision? You knew this was the right way out. How did it all happen?
Look, I trust my gut. And of course I had apprehensions. Any normal or reasonable person would have apprehensions. I've worked very hard to get to the level I've got to within the BBC, and it wasn't an easy decision to make. However, I stick by my morals. I know what is right and wrong. Now, whether Tim Davie does, who is the Director General of the BBC, whether John Simpson does, I have no idea what their morals are. I don't know. I would imagine that they go down the pub and they call them terrorists. The first rule in journalism as a sports reporter, what do you put at the top line of your match report? I tell you what you put. It's what you'd say when you go down the pub with your mates. I don't imagine Mr. Davie or Mr. Simpson go down the pub with their mates and use the language freedom fighters or militants. I would imagine they call them terrorists. The decision was made to leave the BBC because I can no longer stand behind or represent an organisation whose language is so unjust.
So at the end of it, you're essentially saying that you cannot compromise on your morality when you see this massacre on your screens. You know what's right and what's wrong, and you must stand by it and voice your opinions. This is not the time to hide behind impartiality, because it may just end up justifying terror. Thank you so much, Noah Abraham, for the tough decisions you've had to take. You're only 22, tough decision for you to make career-wise, life-wise, but you've done it nonetheless. We salute you for that. Well, with that, we're going to be slipping into a short break. Don't go anywhere.